UFC Vegas 103. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I will be live for the entire UFC Vegas 103 fight card Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Nice mid-afternoon start to the fights, and I'm damn excited for them. So let's jump into it. Fight number one on the card, we have Charles Johnson versus Ramazan Temirov. I'm going to pick Ramazan Temirov to win. I've been singing his praises since before the debut when I, started doing a little research on him before he even fought against CJ Vergara. I was like, we have a sensational prospect at 125. He was beating people up over in Ryzen in Japan, and he's getting knockouts too, which at flyweight, to see someone with his type of power, I think is really impressive. He's got a pretty good kickboxing skill set, karate-esque style. Also likes to work those spinning heel kicks to the body. Definitely has some solid sting on those. Pretty much throws explosive power shots on the feet exclusively, but he does close the gap well as he is looking to throw big bombs. Worrisome factor of this fight, which we have to give it to Charles Johnson, he is a lot taller and longer. Charles Johnson, 7-inch reach advantage. That's pretty massive. Charles Johnson is decent from the outside. He moves well laterally, but ultimately he doesn't have a sensational jab. He's not perfect at keeping opponents at bay. I think though Temirov is the shorter guy, I think his explosiveness will allow him to find openings and land some really big shots on the feet. Ultimately, Charles Johnson, good chin, good durability overall, I would say, and also good grappling defensive capabilities. I do think Temirov has a solid pace that he can run on Charles Johnson, potentially even timing takedowns or at least using takedowns to set up more shots on the feet. Temirov sometimes will go for a takedown and use it to throw a powerful winging overhand. I get that Charles Johnson's a really bad on-paper matchup for Temirov because of his height, because of his reach, and because of his UFC experience. But I just have faith in this kid. I feel like this 28-year-old Uzbek Savage is on his way to being a top 10, maybe top 5 flyweight. I think he could be an interesting fight even for like Alexandre Pantoja. I know we're looking into the future, but when you look at what Temirov can do, the way that he moves, the bounce that he has on his set, the way that he delivers with power, I think he's got a special ability. Now, I get it. He gets a little reckless for the knockout, but that's his youth, 28 years old. 20 pro fights too, though, and he is well-versed in all areas. Riding a nice win streak right now. What's it, 10 fights in a row that he's won? Yeah, 10 wins in a row. In the UFC, taking on Charles Johnson in his second UFC fight. This is not by accident. He's on a bit of the fast track. I think he wins a competitive decision against Johnson. I wouldn't be shocked if Temirov closes the gap and surprises Charles Johnson with some takedowns. As much as I respect Charles Johnson's striking accolades and skills, I feel like I could see Temirov buckling Charles a bit. We saw Joshua Van have some striking success closing distance on Charles Johnson. Ultimately, Johnson landed the perfect uppercut and put him to sleep. I don't think he can land that type of shot on a Temirov. I think Temirov will be relentless with pressure. Also, add in something, guys. We were at the UFC Apex. Smaller octagon, I think it favors the shorter man in Temirov. And I think he can land some significant shots in a competitive back and forth, close the gap on the taller fighter. And I think Ramazan Temirov is taking it home. I think judges' scorecards, I know he is a powerful finisher. You look at it, 11 wins by knockout. That's super impressive at the flyweight class, especially. In general, that's impressive. But 11 KO wins out of 18. But he's gone distance 6 times, and he's won by decision before. And Charles Johnson is a very gritty veteran, and right now riding a nice 4-fight win streak. Took out Azat Maxim, who had a lot of potential and hype coming through. Jake Hadley win, which is okay. Beat Joshua Van, which was really impressive. And then fucked up Sumaderji pretty bad. That was an impressive win. I just think Tamazaranov, I don't even know. What am I saying with his name over here? I think Ramazan Temirov is just built a little different. I think the guy's a freak. I'm going to believe in somebody that I've become a big fan of quick. I'm calling Temirov. Now, he did open up as an underdog, but the line has shifted toward Temirov. He's currently a minus 132 favorite with Charles Johnson as a plus 112 dog. Over 2.5, minus 210. I lean yes, but not like go out and bet it yes. Temirov has sensational KO power. He does wing shots at times, though, but he does loop his shots together pretty well. And with a threat of potential takedowns, he brings good pressure to the taller Charles Johnson, makes him uncomfortable, backing him up and dropping big shots. I think Ramazan Temirov is going to beat Charles Johnson by a unanimous decision. I'm going to pick him, and I'm going to say that he goes on a bit of a run. This right here is on paper one of the harder matchups, though. As tall as Johnson is, and he's a crafty kickboxer, not an easy fight for the powerhouse, but I'm going to pick the powerhouse to pull through. Next fight on the card, Montana De La Rosa and Luana Carolina. I'm going to pick Luana Carolina. Not super interesting as far as women's MMA goes. These are two of, one of the lower tiers, I guess you could say, in the women's flyweight division. Quietly, though, Luana Carolina has gone on a tear. She's won 3 fights in a row, but, opposition is not very high. She did give Petrovic her first loss, so I guess that's kind of impressive. Montana De La Rosa won her last fight. It was a relatively close affair with Andrea Lee. She got by a competitive split decision. Andrea Lee has lost 5 fights in a row now. She's well past her prime. De La Rosa's okay. She's got decent enough wrestling, but it's not impressive though. Boxing's all right, but she's 13-9-1. What are we doing here? Oh my God. I have to pick Luana Carolina. I think Carolina can flurry some shots together. She's normally kind of hard to take down. She's a herky-jerky and awkward striker, and I feel like the unorthodox striking flow of Carolina should lead her to some success. Even though she's unorthodox, it's still effective. She has good volume in her strikes. She's got pretty decent hand speed. I think she's quicker than De La Rosa. I would say De La Rosa has a slight grappling edge, but she's not this beastly wrestler. She's okay with her takedown. She's got some wrestling in the arsenal, but Carolina has improved at her, takedown defense. We've seen it. We've seen get-up game for Carolina as well. Not like she's overly impressive, but I'll pick Luana Carolina. If you're gambling on this fight, I don't get you. Have fun. Odds for the fight, Carolina minus 135, De La Rosa plus 115. My God. The first fight of the night has me so hype, and then we get this one, and I'm like, come on, guys. Probably over 2.5 at minus 450. De La Rosa had a 3-fight losing streak, but the names are not bad. Barber, Suarez, and JJ Aldrich. I don't know. The last win, the Lipsky win's impressive, but that's 3 years and 8 months ago, and Lipsky's got no ground game. Luana Carolina lost to Lipsky, too, with that knee bar years ago. I don't know, though. I think styles make the fights. Montana De La Rosa, a little slower on the feet. Brings a little bit of a wrestling threat, but Luana Carolina hard to take down. She beat Lupi Godinez, who's a top 15 girl in the weight class below, but also a good wrestler. De La Rosa, not one of the stronger or more explosive girls, so the way she gets her down, she's got to drag her down against the cage. And Carolina's kind of relentless in those weird little close range spots, and she'll throw weird flurries. I'll say Carolina gets it on the scorecard. She's won 3 fights in a row. She's got momentum on her side. De La Rosa is barely getting past the, towards the end, Andrea Lee. She's 13-9, dude. I mean, give Carolina some credit. She's 11-4. And I know De La Rosa got to the UFC earlier. She's got a lot of UFC experience, but I don't know. It's never really shown improvement. She's 30. I know. It's like, oh, well, she's got all this UFC experience, but she's only 30 years old. But it's never come together. What's her UFC record? 6-5 in the UFC. I mean, the draw with Bueno Silva, I guess, is all right. I don't know what we're doing here. Losses, decision there. She avenged the loss to Andrea Lee in the rematch. I still feel like Luana Carolina can outpoint her, land better shots. She's the better striker, so unless she gets just absolutely dominated in the grappling, which I guess is not a crazy outcome, but I'll say Luana Carolina by decision. If you're on the gambling side, I don't know what's the point of betting on this fight. But if you are, good luck. If maybe you like De La Rosa as a dog or something, or maybe you're like, yo, I think Carolina's got some crafty striking. I don't know about that. She's a herky-jerky striker. I'm going to say the herky-jerky does enough. She wins. She wins a competitive decision. Give it to Carolina. Next fight on the card, we have Lucas Almeida versus Danny Silva. Very good fight. I'm going to pick Lucas Almeida. I actually think that he's pretty underrated here. And seeing Danny Silva last time with Josh Kulabeo, I mean, he landed some key takedowns, but he definitely got busted up on the feet. Now, respect to Danny Silva for his durability. He walked through a lot of Kulabeo's shots and continued to press forward. But ultimately, he got cracked a ton, and he showed a lot of vulnerabilities in striking. Lucas Almeida actually has pretty good Muay Thai. He's got good straight punches down the line. I get it. People will write him off bad because of this Philly loss. I'm not saying it's a fluke, but Philly caught him with the perfect right hand. Lucas Almeida is not a slouch on the feet. He went 3 hard rounds with Daniel Zellhuber when he was actually 12-0 at the time. That was on Dana White's Contender Series. Then he came into the UFC and he fucked up Mike Trezano. That's a big win. I know Mike Trezano is a guy you forget about, but like he beat Ludovic Klein at one point. Mike Trezano is in bare knuckle now. He finished his UFC career on a W, though. It's not like he got washed out. He ultimately didn't re-sign, but the guy was decent. And Almeida was in a back and forth fight with him. I believe both guys dropped too. But Lucas Almeida's got some pop in his hands. He's got good straight punches. He looked good against Timmy Kawamba. He made Timmy Kawamba back up for a lot of the fight, and he found good shots down the center. When I look at Danny Silva on the other side, I like his relentlessness. I like his offensive striking. I'll tell you guys this. I see this fight as a coin flip. I see it as a 50-50. For sure, it's a competitive fight. Both guys have paths to victory. If Lucas Almeida can land some big straights down the center, Danny Silva tries to wrestle. Almeida's defensively sound, maybe lands a nice elbow on the inside, cuts Danny Silva. The thing with Danny Silva is, though, say he has good volume with his striking. I've yet to be impressed with his power, and I also am not impressed with the lack of head movement. It's going to be interesting because both guys like to press forward. I'm curious who's going to be the one, leading the dance. It's going to be a close one. I don't know. At times, Silva, bit stiff and hittable in boxing range. At times, I feel like Almeida gets a little out of position on the inside. Almeida, I believe he has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he got absolutely ran over by Pat Sabatini. At the time, it looked bad, but to be fair, Pat Sabatini's kind of a menace on the ground and way more dangerous. Danny Silva, it's like, okay, he beat Josh Kulabeo on a competitive split decision. Fight before that, he fucked up Angel Pacheco, he lost to Colin Loughran in his UFC debut. Beat an unknown here, lost to Kanan. I absolutely will botch his last name if I say it, but I remember him from Contender Series. That he was a Contender Series loser, and he beat Danny Silva in their fight over in LFA. It's like Danny was getting caught a lot there with straights, some takedowns. He was put on his back. It's not like Danny Silva is this beast wrestler, When I look at a fight with Lucas Almeida, I'm like, okay, for Danny Silva, he doesn't have big power. He's got volume striking. He's got decent boxing, but he lacks head movement. There's definitely moments of vulnerability. He has okay wrestling, but like he's taking down Josh Kulabeo. Josh Kulabeo is pretty fucking bad at wrestling. He's pretty bad at grappling overall. He's a good striker for sure. He's a quick striker, but he has no skills on the mat. Lucas Almeida is better at jiu-jitsu than that level. Striking-wise, I think this fight's competitive. I think Almeida has some striking success. I'm sure Danny Silva lands some decent shots in range, but I haven't been impressed with power of Danny Silva. I mean, Angel Pacheco was a punching bag for him, and Danny Silva dropped everything, and he was still standing. Yeah, Pacheco might have a good chin, but I still have to question Danny Silva's punching power. So I see a hard 3 rounds between the two probably. If Almeida can cut Danny Silva on the inside, which I'm seeing an elbow potentially as a threat here with Almeida's Muay Thai background, I could see him eking it out on the judges' scorecards. It's a super competitive fight. I see it going the hard 3. You can look at the odds in front of us here. Danny's minus 185. At open, it was minus 110, right? Almeida plus 160. At open, he was sitting at minus 110. So odds were even. Seems like people are favoring Danny Silva, but I feel like it's just this weird thing where everybody's writing off Lucas Almeida. And I get it. He had 2 bad losses in a row, but he fucked up Timmy Kawamba, and Kawamba's a decent prospect. Kawamba's not bad, and he had Kawamba fighting scared on the feet. Kawamba did have a little late wrestling success, but didn't do any damage. I think it's a competitive fight. I think Almeida is a live underdog. He's plus 160. It's a 50-50. I'll say Almeida More dangerous in the striking, I'll say Silva, better pace. Wrestling, I would say Silva's a little better at offensive wrestling, but I don't know if he's good enough at offensive wrestling to have consistent success on Lucas Almeida in the takedowns. And if he gets him down, does he just sit in full guard and kind of lay on him and do nothing? Does Almeida burst back up to his feet? Because he does have some transitional skills from the bottom. He's got some get-up game to him. He's not horrible. Like, you look, oh, well, Pat Sabatini made him look so bad. Yeah, but Pat Sabatini is a monster at grappling. Danny Silva is not that. Danny Silva can time some takedowns, but 2 years ago, he was still getting out grappled here against, Kanan. I'm going to say Almeida's a live underdog. I think he wins it. Competitive decision. I'm not sold on Danny Silva yet. He's 9-1. Hasn't really fought anybody good. I get it, though. He's 6 years younger. The thing is, Lucas Almeida is not an old 34, right? You'll be like, oh, well, last week there's a fight similar to this, Melquizio Costa and Fili. Yeah, but Melquizio Costa, 2-2 in the UFC, 28 years old, getting better and developing, right? Fili on the opposite side, 34, but been in the UFC for 12 years. And we've seen his level. Almeida, still fresh in his UFC run. And just a few years ago, he was the 12-0 prospect. When he fought against Daniel Zellhuber, he was a slight underdog there, but he came into that fight at 12-0, and they went in a back-and-forth 3-round fight in the lightweight division. And then he eventually gets the UFC shot and does well. And yeah, you can knock him. The loss to Fili is not good. It's a bad loss to Fili. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Fili. He hit him with the perfect straight right hand, but I don't think that Danny Silva is landing that right hand. I don't think Almeida's getting slept like that again. I'm going to say Lucas Almeida edges out a close fight with Danny Silva. I'll pick him as an underdog here. 50-50 matchup. I'm going to go with Almeida's Muay Thai as enough to win it in a competitive one. Let's go to the next fight. Ladies going after it. Andrea Lee, JJ Aldrich. Yeah, I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich. I feel like she's a little craftier. Southpaw, pretty decent boxing, has some grappling. She's not on a 5-fight losing streak. I don't know what are they doing? These are two of the lower caliber women's fights, and they got to put it on the same card. Can we spread these out a little bit and then have a good women's fight on this card too? Oh my gosh. Wow. It's not like I know what these girls do. I'm not saying because I don't know what's going on. I'm saying what the fuck? I don't like the two women's fights on this card really at all. I think they're bad matchups. Ultimately, I believe that JJ Aldrich is more primed than Andrea Lee. She has a well-versed game. Boxing isn't bad. Takedowns are in the arsenal. Andrea Lee has lost 5 fights in a row. It's damn hard to pick a fighter who's lost 5 in a row. Granted, close decision with De La Rosa, lost to Maverick, Natalia Silva, close with Barber. Not horrible performances. Could she pull through? Maybe. I mean, she's an underdog. Maybe you want to bet her. I'm not interested. I'm not betting on an underdog who has 5 losses in a row with some hope that maybe she isn't washed at 36. Plus 163 for Lee. Aldrich, minus 188. I feel like Aldrich, a little better right now. Primed over 2.5. Southpaw stance. Should threaten with some clinch positions and maybe some takedowns here. And really used to have better grappling defense, but I don't think it's as good as it once was. I feel like Aldrich is pretty patient with her boxing. Lee, I don't know, she can get a little reckless on the feet. She's got decent Muay Thai, but it's not high caliber. At one point, she was highly rated, but how many freaking losses in a row, man? 5, we're going to go to maybe 6. I'm going to go with JJ Aldrich. She lost to Veronica Hardy, but she still won the 3rd round and looked good late. Had 2 wins in a row. Beat De La Rosa, who recently beat Lee. Na Liang is a non-factor. She's horrible. Lost to Lipsky de Silva, lost to Blanchfield, but it is what it is on those losses. We'll go JJ Aldrich. I think she wins 29-28, and I think Andrea Lee retires inside of the octagon. That's what I'll predict happens here. We'll go Aldrich on the cards. Next fight, we got Douglas Silva de Andrade versus John Castañeda. This is a good matchup, too. I'm picking John Castañeda to win. He's more primed than Douglas Silva de Andrade. Throws pretty good striking volume. He's kind of like a scrappy dog type fighter. Likes to mix it up. Likes to switch up stances. Has good punches on the inside. Rips some nice combinations. Underrated wrestling base too. Pretty patient with his pressure, but also knows when to let combinations fly. Decent little kicks as well to the legs. I like the way that he moves. Douglas Silva de Andrade is a tight Muay Thai style, but he's a tad bit unorthodox. He works like looping shots at times and spin kicks to the body. 39 years old though, and like evidence tells me he's slowing down a bit. Got outworked by Miles Johns for 3 rounds, who actually John Castaneda beat. And then fight before he got, I don't know, man, close decision with Cody Stammen. He definitely got fucked up in round 3, but like maybe got the first 2. Ultimately, I mean, then it was a loss to Saeed, which is not bad, but that's 2 years and 7 months ago. He's a 39-year-old bantamweight. I feel like John Castaneda is decent. 33 in his prime. Good volume strike. Good gas tank, too. Castaneda's in good shape. He can keep a high pace. Last fight, he got outworked by Daniel Marcos, but like that's a true tactician, right? A real technical striker that picks his shots well. Douglas Silva de Andrade is more of like the wild factor to him. He throws chaotic shots, but I feel like that's what Castaneda does better against. I could see Castaneda even timing some takedowns here. Looking at the last fight, he controlled Kyung Ho Kang, beat Muin Gafurov, who I guess looked pretty good recently. Willie Cat put him out. But listen, Willie Cat's just underrated. He's an absolute savage. And Castaneda was doing good earlier in that fight. And that sub over Miles Johns has aged like a fine wine. John Castaneda is pretty tough, man. He's a guy that he puts on 3 hard rounds and he's not going to wilt. He's going to keep coming forward. Douglas Silva de Andrade at almost 40. I don't know if he can keep that same pace. He's not super precise. Like I said, he's unorthodox with his striking. It's a lot of looping shots, spinning attacks. I just think Castaneda can beat this style. I don't think it's a washout. I think Silva de Andrade has decent moments, but I'm going to say Castaneda takes it on the judges' scorecards. Probably a lot of decisions on this prelim, to be honest with you. I'm going to say John Castaneda 29-28, maybe a 30-27. I think the wrestling is more effective in the 3rd round. I think first 2 could be more competitive, but I feel like John Castaneda a little more fine-tuned in the stand-up with a little bit of a better pace. Andrade, he's sometimes really inaccurate when he throws these looping shots. Like he just, sometimes relies on those body kicks, the spin body kicks, really. And I feel like the Mexican savage, John Castaneda, can outwork him. I'm going to go Castaneda. As far as the odds, minus 230 for Castaneda. He opened up at minus 150, plus 195 for Douglas Silva de Andrade. Not surprised at the odds with de Andrade nearly 40 years old. And then looking towards an over 2.5, minus 270, probably. Castaneda, I mean, as of recent, he's been Mr. Decision. But, I mean, he did beat Miles Johns with that arm triangle. That was impressive, to be honest. Eddie Wineland finish is not bad. I mean, it's kind of trash, though, because Eddie Wineland was super washed in 2021. I feel like decision makes the most sense, man. Douglas Silva de Andrade, I'm going to give credit where it's due. He's in freakish condition. The dude is like jacked beyond belief. He looks like an absolute menace to society with his build, just shredded shoulders and freakish looking. He shaved his head for that Miles Johns fight, and yeah, he looked kind of creepy, to be honest, man. I hope he grows his hair out for this one. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can handle staring at him too long with that bald head, bro. Might fucking haunt my damn nightmares. But ultimately, John Castaneda should handle the terrifying look of Douglas Silva de Andrade. I got to favor youth, even though it's not like he's that young. I got to favor the prime of Castaneda, the volume, the pressure, the wrestling base. I think it beats the unorthodox flow of Silva de Andrade. So we're going Castaneda for the win by unanimous decision. Next fight on the card. It brings us to our featured prelim of the night. We have Ricardo Ramos versus Chepe Mariscal. I'm going to pick Chepe Mariscal, but I want to mention something. Look at these glasses. Look. Ricardo Ramos has been seen training with fighting nerds, okay? And I, at one point, was very high on Ricardo Ramos. At one point, I had said, I think Ricardo Ramos has top 15 potential. Now, since that point, he's looked like an idiot versus Charles Jourdain and Julian Rosa. And, last time he beat Josh Kulabea, but he looked awful. So it's really hard for me to pick him based on evidence of what he's done in fights just because, he's wearing these glasses in a picture and he's training with the fighting nerds. I'm not going to do that. Chepe Mariscal is undefeated in the UFC. He puts a crazy pace on people. He has very high caliber wrestling and he is just simply dog tough. If you ask me who's tougher between these two, I would say easily Chepe Mariscal. Mariscal doesn't wilt. Ricardo Ramos, we have seen him wilt. He's been finished a handful of times. Tuhugov lost there. I mean, at least he went distance. And then he beat Danny Chavez, who's absolute fucking shit, not in the UFC anymore. Charles Jourdain destroyed him by sub. I guess he didn't destroy him, but he subbed him up with a ghillie. Then a ghillie again. It's like there's no fucking critical thinking from Ricardo Ramos, man. There's none. And then the Culebao win, I mean, he barely won that fight. Culebao sold in the first round. Culebao accidentally gives up his back as he's beating the shit out of Ramos's legs. Then, round 2, more success for Culebao. Round 3, Ramos drags him down, has his back to finish the fight. Ramos escaped that fight with just like sleepy control time. It was just a terrible performance. He got absolutely outstruck. I think Chepe could do damage with kicks to the leg. I think Ramos' striking arsenal is shit. I think it's really overrated, man. I have a little bit of bitterness, though, because I was high on Ramos for years for some stupid reason. I don't know. But he's been in the UFC a long time, and it just doesn't seem like he's gotten better. I remember when he was doing that behind the leg back kick against Lerone Murphy, and I'm like, bro, what is this fucking attack? What is this strike? I'm like, why are you doing that? And then he got destroyed. So I think Chepe Mariscal can beat up Ramos. When things get tough, I feel like Ramos is the type of guy that looks for a way out, whereas I don't think Chepe Mariscal understands what quitting is. The dude is just simply dog tough, absolutely in your face for all 3 rounds, and he should outwork Ricardo Ramos either for a late finish, maybe even a submission against the jiu-jitsu guy. Ramos is still competing in jits. I saw on his Instagram. Training with fighting nerds, it can only do so much, man. It's not going to save you against a guy like Chepe Mariscal that wants to eat your heart. So I'm going to say Chepe Mariscal with the win. It's just more, I'm asking myself, decision or does he get a finish? Chepe is not good with submissions. Like, he's just not a submission threat guy. He's got good submission defense, but ultimately 3 wins by sub. When was the last time? He hasn't won a win. Oh my gosh, what? 2018 he won by sub? Ultimately, Chepe Mariscal, he outdogs you. He maybe breaks you with some ground and pound and gets a finish, or he takes it on the scorecard. So I could see Chepe Mariscal ripping some heavy leg kicks because that's a vulnerability of Ramos. If you notice, Ramos stands kind of heavy-footed in like a loose Muay Thai stance. He's not very creative. Ramos, he tries to be, but it's actually just like random techniques. I really struggle to fathom the intent behind Ramos's attacks. Like, have your attacks mean something. And sometimes Ramos is doing things that are high risk, no reward. And I just tend to scratch my head. I just don't think Ramos is a smart fighter, man. He's dumb. And I think Chepe Mariscal is an absolute beast. So I'm going to pick Chepe to, honestly, I think he's live to break him. He might get a TKO here. I could see like 3rd round, Ramos gas, ground and pound, or maybe kicks early and then Ramos just goes down and turtles up. The way that Mariscal loses this fight is if Ramos can take his back. But like, it's not like Ramos did that much good work against Culebao. I guess he almost had him in the rear naked choke in round 1, but Culebao like is horrible on the ground. Mariscal's a good wrestler. Over 2.5 is plus 145. So a finish is expected. That's interesting. Minus 475 for Mariscal. The line's opened a lot closer. It was minus 180. Now it's minus 475. You can't do anything with that, really, besides a parlay. Ramos plus 375. I honestly will tell you guys, I held out hope for Ramos for years, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by having some faithful pick because, oh my God, he's with fighting nerds now. That's the call. Listen, he's probably getting beaten up by Gene Silva in training. That's really what he's there for. He's a body to work with. I'm going to say Chepe Mariscal breaks him. Ricardo Ramos, he wilts in fights. Mariscal doesn't. And I will favor the skills with the heart as opposed to just some technique with lacking fight IQ and, also lacking heart. I'm going to take it there. I'm going Chepe Mariscal, taking it home. Probably a TKO, maybe a decision. I'll say decision or TKO for Chepe. He breaks Ramos. Let's jump to our main card opener. If you guys are enjoying and you haven't, make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you smash the like button too. We got Danny Barlow versus Sam Patterson to start off the main card. I am going to pick Sam Patterson to beat Danny Barlow. I am not 100% on Danny Barlow, guys, okay? He had some weird moments with Veretinikov. Late in the fight, he was throwing slapping shots, and he looked a bit awkward in the later stages of the fight when he was unable to find that kill shot, and Veretinikov was still there. Now, we recognize something about Veretinikov. He's not very good. I'm not going to say he's awful, but he's not good. He's not a high-level guy. He's a mid-level. He got absolutely ran over by Austen Vanderford this past weekend, beaten the hell out of from top position. Danny Barlow is primarily just the striker. Now, he does have a dangerous left hand. Look at the nickname, left hand to God. He's a southpaw, so that nasty straight left is a factor, and he's got long arms, 79-inch reach, longer reach than his taller opponent in Patterson. But if he's unable to land the knockout shot against Sam Patterson, I question how this fight looks for him if they hit the mat. I'm not sold on Danny Barlow's grappling defensive abilities just yet. And Sam Patterson, say what you want about his chin. I understand he took this bad loss to, Ashmoos. I know he got caught and flattened quick, but he was cut into 155, which was a massive career mistake for him because he was literally draining himself to almost nothing. You shouldn't be 6'3" at 155, at least not Patterson. He then moves up in weight, makes easy work of Johan Lainus, who's an okay power puncher, makes easy work of Kiefer Crosby. He got caught with one overhand right, to be fair. Now he's taking on Danny Barlow. Barlow likes to throw those straight punches, and I think Sam Patterson, with his length, will see a lot of those straights coming. I think he could find some counters of his own, but I expect him to tie up with Danny Barlow. My mindset is this. If Patterson survives the first round with Danny Barlow in some big sequences, as Barlow begins to slow down, Sam Patterson has better jiu-jitsu than him. They go to the mat. Sam Patterson is very live for a submission. He's crafty. He's long. He's got the freaky frame that makes it hard to escape his positions on the mat. Deceptively strong for a skinnier, tall guy like that. I think Sam Patterson can pull off the upset, man. I think Danny Barlow, tad bit overrated. Even the Josh Quinlan win, right? Yeah, he fucked him up. He stopped him in the third, but Quinlan was still in that fight the first 2.5, and Quinlan is not good. He just lost on the regional scene. I feel like Sam Patterson's a decent prospect. He's not bad, man. Sam Patterson, it's like you're going to look at the odds, and you're going to think, oh, Barlow's going to run through him. Chill for a sec. Barlow was throwing slapping shots against Veretinikov, and he broke his hand in that Quinlan fight. People were saying that he also broke the hand in the Veretinikov fight. I don't know if that's right, to be honest. You can let me know in the comments. If that is right, though, then you would say, okay, I also have a guy in Danny Barlow who has fragile hands in his power hand, which that could definitely throw him off later in the fight with Sam Patterson, who's still a gifted striker. Patterson's good at kickboxing. Patterson can move well on the feet. He's pretty schooled. And I think the fact that Barlow's game is built on throwing big straight shots, the length of Patterson gives Barlow trouble in the striking realm, which allows Patterson to drag the fight to the ground at some point, and I do think he locks up a submission. So I'm going to say Patterson to sub Danny Barlow. These undefeated guys are constantly getting checked, man. I don't see it. I don't think Barlow's going to 10-0. I see Danny Barlow as 9-1. I see it. And I think that Sam Patterson gives Danny Barlow his first loss and what will be a big upset. These odds don't make sense. These odds shouldn't be this wide. The reason these odds are this wide is because Sam Patterson is being judged from a loss down in weight where he was caught by a perfect punch and he absolutely had a horrible weight cut. He was a plus 190 dog. He swelled to plus 260, minus 310 now for Barlow, opened at minus 225. I think Sam Patterson is a live underdog. I don't know why he's being overlooked here. I know Barlow has power, but he's not a super technical guy. I don't know, kind of the Chaos Williams effect. Like, has power, but if he doesn't get it done, I don't know. And then you have also like the unknown with the wrestling of Danny Barlow's. How does he deal with the clinch work of Patterson? I think Patterson hits him with the trip, especially in the second or third round. I'm going to say Patterson by sub. The over 1.5 is minus 105. Could see it going over 1.5. I like Patterson's submission chance. I don't know how Barlow's going to look on the mat with a guy whose frame is freaky like Patterson's, and he seems to have deceptive strength. That's what Sam Patterson brings to the table, deceptive strength. Last two fights, he made these guys look like nothing's on the ground. Now, Danny Barlow is in his prime at 29. He's a prospect too. So, he'll assumingly put more resistance than like an aging Kiefer Crosby or a Johan Lainus. But either way, I think Sam Patterson is live to take his back and strangle him, could even hit him with an arm triangle. I think the best method for Patterson is defend the striking early, find shots, but don't overextend yourself looking to land big, and then time a key takedown, whether it's against the cage, body lock, dragging Barlow to the floor, or even using the cage to climb the back. I can see Patterson tying up with Barlow and finding success. And I think his technicality on the mat is going to be a key difference maker. I think Barlow's got good boxing for sure, but outside of just the hands aspect of fighting, and if Patterson's chin holds up, if he doesn't get hit with a big one, doesn't get knocked out, I think Patterson is live to win by sub. So I'm going to say Sam Patterson to win the fight. I'll say via submission. I think he gives Danny Barlow his first loss, and this is definitely the toughest fight of Barlow's career. Arguably, you could say the same for Sam Patterson, but that's a good thing, right? Both guys taking on fellow prospects, and, one of them with a bad loss here, which, has made the odds wide, but ultimately, the fight is much more of a 50-50 than the betting lines will have you believe in. Sam Patterson is certainly in this fight. Sam Patterson is talented. Sam Patterson trains his ass off, and Sam Patterson has very, very capable grappling alongside of competent striking. And Danny Barlow, he's skillful in the stand-up. He's a talented striker, but he's not super technical. Like, he likes the straights, but he gets sloppy. He gets slappy, really. He starts slapping that straight left in the later stages of the fight, and that's a sign of fatigue. And I think Sam Patterson can handle business. So I'm going to say Patterson submission over Danny Barlow here. I think he's being completely overlooked by the books. Next fight on the card, we have William Gomis versus Hyder Amil. I'm going to be picking William Gomis. Hyder Amil is a 34-year-old prospect, and I get the hype a little bit. Absolutely ran over Fernie Garcia, and last time he destroyed Ji-Yoon Lee. Ji-Yoon Lee fought with a negative 50 fight IQ. He was hit by a big shot, and instead of calming down, attempting to recover, or maybe even attempting to wrestle, he just starts swinging wild shots like these two are in a fucking bar fight. And Hyder Amil out bar fought him and ended up getting a stoppage on the feet, landing big shots and just ripping combinations, throwing like 30 straight punches at him. I don't know the exact number. Amil seems to have a decent arsenal in striking. This is not a knock on Amil. He's a good pressure fighter that likes to brawl. He rips big combinations. He's a guy that has a pretty solid volume attack and some decent wrestling in the back pocket too. William Gomis is a tactical kickboxer. He's a kickboxing tactician and a technician, okay? He likes to pick shots from range and stay on the bicycle moving, being the matador to the bull. I think he'll frustrate Hyder Amil for a majority of the fight, land cleaner shots, and technically outstrike him. I do think Amil looks to wrestle, but he's met by pretty good resistance by Gomis, who has a tricky frame as well, being 6 feet tall to Hyder Amil at 5'9", 3-inch reach advantage. Gomis is undefeated in the UFC, so it's interesting seeing a battle of prospects like this. Last fight, he won a bit of a controversial decision against Joanderson Brito, but still a competitive affair with Brito, who's a quality up-and-comer at featherweight and is definitely a dangerous guy. Fight before that, Giannis Gamori's terrible. Clean win over him. Competitive with Francis Marshall, but Francis Marshall's an absolute pitbull. Jarno Aaron's win. Jarno Aaron's has tricky stand-up. And that was the UFC debut for William Gomis. And at the time, Aarons was one of the best rated featherweights out of Europe as a prospect. So it's not like he was an absolute scrub. Even though he had success in the UFC, he's not bad. William Gomis is more technically proficient with a range advantage, being the younger guy at 27 with a blossoming skill set overall. Say what you want about this decision. The fact he can go 3 and have good moments against Joanderson Brito, I just have to favor him against a 34-year-old prospect in Hyder Amil. I'll say William Gomis takes this fight on the judges' scorecards. He's live for a 30-27. I think he strikes well from range. I think Amil looks to pressure and Gomis lands good counter shots. I think Amil gets a little too reckless, and I think Gomis makes him pay. The thing with Gomis is he isn't a big power hitter, though. He really hasn't shown us much power. I mean, he knocked out Gamori there, but that wasn't really even a knockout. It was like a shot that wasn't a low blow, right? And then Gamori went and like acted as if it was a low blow, and then the referee stopped the fight because the shot wasn't actually below the belt, but Gamori like turtled up like it was over. And they went to, this is when they went to the replay over in Paris. I feel as though William Gomis should win here, though. I think clean stand-up game, technical striking from range, manages distance pretty well. Amil looks to throw bombs, but I feel like Gomis times clean shots on him and takes home a unanimous decision. So the pick is going to be William Gomis on the cards. I think he wins. Minus 200 for Gomis. Opened up at, let's see, we don't got anything for when it opened up. We got nothing. All right, they told us no. We can't see when anything opens up. We got to reload the page. That's crazy. Little glitch from Fight Odds. Let's see if we can get it because I want to see. Opened up at minus 240, now currently minus 200. So William Gomis, still strong 2-1 favorite, but I think he should be. I lean towards him winning by decision over 2.5, minus 285. Not a surprise. I'll say that Gomis outpoints Hyder Amil on his way to 30-27, maybe a 29-28, but I'm seeing 30-27. Good range advantage. I don't know, man. I felt that Hyder Amil was overrated for a while. I mean, he beat Emra Sonmez a year and a half ago, but 34-year-old prospect? Come on, man. At featherweight, I got to go with the 27-year-old who's shown improvements each and every time and is yet to lose in the UFC, regardless of what you think about this result. Still 3 hard rounds against a dangerous Joe Anderson Brito. Gomis, unanimous decision. Next fight on the card, heavyweights going after it. It's Austen Lane versus Mario Pinto. The pick is Mario Pinto all day. Austen Lane is not very good. This should be the showcase fight for another heavyweight prospect. As of right now, the heavyweight division is probably at an all-time low. I mean, it brings me back to the days of Roy Big Country Nelson, Mark Hunt, Bigfoot Silva, Alistair Overeem, Shane Carwin, Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez. Better era, it feels like. Right now, outside of the top 5, it's a shit sty. I mean, I guess heavyweight's always been a little thin at the higher end, but more now than ever before. I think that Pinto is a hope for the heavyweight division. He's a very technical striker with good counter shot ability. He is pretty patient, and he's won fights by decision before, but he ended up looking really good in that Contender Series fight with Lucas Camacho, who I believe is an Andre Petneris protege. Let me double check to make sure. Yeah, he's a Nova União guy. So under Andre Petneris, and Pinto dropped him with one clean hook, fight over. He showed levels in that fight. Pinto is crafty as hell in striking, and he's very technically sound, which for a big heavyweight, impressive, man. Kind of like, not like Cyril Gane, but like reminds you of Cyril Gane with his technical abilities. Whereas Austen Lane is kind of just like a pressure-heavy, brawling journeyman. I mean, he out-wrestled Rebellis de Spain to a decision. Rebellis de Spain turned out to be the biggest bust in heavyweight history, maybe. Before that, he was knocked out by Jonathan Diniz. But to be fair, he had mount, but Diniz is also horrible at grappling. And, Justin Tafa KO'd him. Before that, he had the no contest with the eye poke, but he still got flattened. In that Contender Series win against Jacoby, who's awful. Mario Pinto should make easy work of Austen Lane. I think first round knockout. He's going to be way too technically sound. Lane is not going to be able to out wrestle him. He'll look to bring pressure. Pinto is going to find the counter shot, and I think Austen Lane crumbles with a big punch. His chin has always been questionable. I mean, shit, at one point Austen Lane was chinned by Greg Hardy. I think let's not forget about the old days of the Contender Series where he got fucking destroyed there. I feel like Pinto is going to just have an absolute showcase in store for himself where he styles on Austen Lane and he gets a knockout. Now, I get it, though. He has won decisions, right? 3 of his last 5 wins are decisions. He's a guy that likes to pick his shots and take his time, but I just feel like he's coming into his own. 26, nearly 27 at heavyweight. He might as well be a baby, but being 6'5", he's going to be an inch shorter than Austen Lane, but still freakishly huge heavyweights on both sides. But being 6'5" and having technical skills is a lot better than just being 6'6" and like a football blitz. Austen Lane with that football background. I'm going to say Mario Pinto handles business with relative ease and should have a nice showcase for himself. Another Contender Series guy getting a big showcase opportunity. We saw it with Teixeira against Tafa, and he made easy work. I'm going to say Pinto makes easy work on Lane. And I was actually more impressed with Pinto on the Contender Series than I was with Taliesin Teixeira. I think Pinto has a very high ceiling, and his technical skills are really impressive right now. And I look forward to watching him absolutely wreck Austen Lane this Saturday. So easy money, Pinto for the W. Of course, I got to pick the Mario. Minus 370 for Pinto. I agree with the odds. Plus 305 for Lane. They should be this wide. Looking towards the side of the over 1.5, minus 120. I'll say under 1.5 at minus 110. I don't think it goes too long. The way Lane fights, he gets reckless on the feet. If he's unsuccessful in grappling, which I think he's going to be forced into a stand-up exchange with somebody that has well-versed skills and nice timing. I'm going to say Pinto counter shot KO with, violent intent and a nice highlight reel knockout to start his UFC career off. And I'm excited. Pinto, right now, he might be my favorite heavyweight prospect, so I'm pretty damn hyped for him. Let's go. Team Pinto for the W to handle business against Austen Lane with relative ease. Let's go, guys. Next fight on the card, featured fight of the night. It's Nasrat Haqparast versus Esteban Ribovics. You know, this is actually a really close fight. I'm going to pick Esteban Ribovics, but the odds are crazy wide at this point towards Ribovics. He's riding high off a nice back and forth win over Daniel Zellhuber, but you got to give Haqparast credit. He's got a 4-fight win streak going. Beat Jared Gordon in a good war. I know a lot of people felt Gordon could have won that fight, but regardless, Gordon, a tested veteran, right? Good wins before it. Jamie Malarkey, dominant over Quinones, but competitive moments, and Quinones is not very good. McDessie, not in the UFC any longer. Esteban Ribovics, nice 3-fight win streak. Camille Leclerc, who's horrible. Terrence McKinney, easy knockout in violent fashion. And then, like I said, the Ribovics Zellhuber fight was a banger. And I picked Esteban Ribovics as a big underdog in that fight. And I saw the boxing skill and the pressure-based style that I thought could give Zellhuber trouble. I see a similar thing here with Haqparast. Haqparast is pretty talented, though. He rips nice punch combinations from the southpaw stance. He's got a really quick left hand, and he does close range pretty nicely, and he boxes well and close. Does have a shitload of UFC experience at this point, 9-4, but 9-3 over his last 10. Likes to throw a lot of looping shots, whereas Ribovics kind of likes hooking blitzes to close distance. So interesting to see the clash of different brawling, boxing-based styles. I feel like Ribovics has a bit more hand speed at times from close range, but from the mid-range, I feel like Haqparast with that overhand left is pretty fast. I feel like Ribovics has maybe a little more dog in him, but both guys got a lot of dog in them, to be honest. I just see it as a really competitive back-and-forth fight. I definitely got to say, watch for Ribovics' high kicks. The way he chinned Terrence McKinney was absolutely badass. I feel like Ribovics brings good pressure, mixes up shots nice on the inside. I feel like he could outwork Haqparast in round 3. I asked myself, okay, round 3, who do I think wins? I'm like, I think Ribovics wins a tired and exhausted third round against Haqparast. If they're both absolutely gassed, who do I think puts the pedal to the metal a little more? I think Esteban Ribovics is the one putting the pedal to the metal a little bit more. I think he's in the face of Haqparast, throwing hard shots, backing him up. I think Haqparast throwing back, but Ribovics eats it and keeps coming and lands a better one. I just feel like Ribovics can get a hard-fought decision over Haqparast in a war. I think this is an easy call for a potential fight of the night. Both of these guys like a good brawl. Both of these guys like to scrap. I just think Ribovics can win that final round. I like a Ribovics in round 3. I feel like Ribovics also maybe has a little bit more punching power, and he's really starting to come into his own now. 14-1, super talented prospect. The loss was a while ago, 2 years ago to Loic Rajabov, and the most recent loss for Haqparast was to Bobby Green 3 years ago, which is like a decent rated opponent, but, you know, clear out striking for Bobby Green in that one. I feel like Ribovics can beat Haqparast by a hard-fought decision. I see another competitive fight for both guys. I think it goes all rounds. I think it's a war. I think both guys have moments in, you know, close-range exchanges of punches. But I feel like Ribovics lands a little bit harder, little bit cleaner, little bit more. But it's worrisome, though, because Ribovics only 4 UFC fights deep. We got, what, 13 UFC fights for Nasrat Haqparast now? He's been around for a very long time. Something's just telling me Ribovics can win, but everybody's on him. Look at the people's picks, 83%. Look at the odds. It's like, it almost feels like this is a trap, bro. Minus 250, but opened at plus 180. This is the fucking public dog of the week. Everybody already bet him down. Haqparast opened up as minus 210. Isn't that crazy to see a line flip like that? Wow. Big line flip. Line movement like madness here. But I think Ribovics wins 29-28. I'm not letting the betting odds throw my mind. Fuck the odds, okay? It's about who wins the fist fight. We're breaking down the fights. The odds are the next step. We talk about it all, but it's all about who wins the fight. I think Ribovics does enough to win. To me, the odds should be like minus 110 on both sides. That's the real odds. Over 2.5, minus 260. Probably goes over 2.5. Ribovics probably takes the third round. I think Haqparast wins maybe the first. Ribovics wins the second and third, something like that. It's going to be fucking competitive, and no matter what side you're on, if you're betting Ribovics as a chalky-locky, or maybe you got him in a parlay, or if you're betting Haqparast as a value dog, expect a sweat, because these guys both want it really, really bad. and there's going to be competitive moments throughout the entire fight. I feel as though Ribovics has a slightly higher ceiling. I like Ribovics training with Killcliff FC. Now, granted, Haqparast is at TriStar, so I got to respect the team, but I don't know, man. Ribovics' improvements have been pretty obvious. Haqparast has definitely gotten better, but still was in a tit-for-tat war with Jared Gordon. And I'm not saying that the win over Zellhuber is that much more impressive. Zellhuber 15-1, though, has a nice long reach, picks shots well from the outside. It's a close fight. I don't know. I feel like a win for Ribovics over Zellhuber is more impressive than Haqparast is over Gordon, simply because of where they're at in their careers. But Gordon is an OG. It's just Zellhuber is masterful from range, and he's like a highly touted Mexican striking prospect. And he was expected by most people to win. I was in the minority for sure, calling the Ribovics dog side. This time, Ribovics is a big favorite, but I have to back him with the same confidence simply because you know he's going to fight his ass off here. Now, as is Haqparast. Two guys that want it really bad. Who wants it more? I'm going to say Esteban Ribovics, a little bit craftier on the inside, a little bit quicker with punches and close. Haqparast maybe a little better from mid-range, but 29-28, Esteban Ribovics for the win. That's going to be the pick in a damn good fight. I'm excited as hell. This is one of the most highly anticipated fights of the night for me. Next fight, our co-main event of the evening. I'm taking a sip of this. What are we doing? 2025 UFC. Cody Brundage, Julian Marquez, and the co-main event. This makes no sense to me. Charles Johnson, Ramazan Temirov co-main event makes more sense. And that's the first fight of the night, according to Tapology, and I think even UFC.com. I'll pick Cody Brundage because I think Julian Marquez is washed, but Cody Brundage is literally 10-6. And he's won 2 fights out of his last 5, and one of them is by DQ. I guess if you want to use MMA math to pick this one, let's use MMA math. Well, Cody Brundage slammed Zach Reese on his head. Zach Reese violently chinned Julian Marquez. Bingo. MMA math undefeated. Always works. It doesn't always work. It's just, am I supposed to pick Julian Marquez, who fights once a year, inconsistent as hell? Even against Maki Pitolo, he was losing early portions of that fight, and Pitolo is losing on the regional scene now. I guess this win's not bad against Sam Alvey, the corpse of Sam Alvey, and then got absolutely destroyed bad by Gregory Rodriguez. But you say, oh, but he looked tough. He was getting up. He was trying to keep fighting. Yeah, but he took a shitload of damage, and probably more damage than he needed to. He could have got stopped quicker, but the ref let him get killed. They should have stopped it standing. The ref let him get absolutely starched. And then he loses in a back and forth with Marc-Andre Barrios, and Zach Reese with 1 punch drops him. Granted, he was getting back up to his feet, but I don't know, man. The Marquez chin might be gone. Cody Brundage has a sneaky overhand. He also has a good wrestling base, but like completely unreliable with Brundage because sometimes he just looks for ways out in fights. Like his last one, he fought Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He got hit to the back of the head a bit. He's like, I'm chilling. I don't blame him though, because Al Hassan is a terrifying power puncher. Fight before that, he lost to Bo Nickel, but he did give Bo Nickel a relatively hard fight in the first round. Stop a takedown, threw him off of him, was throwing shots. My God, man. The level of this fight is just absolute confusion. Just close your eyes and pick a winner. I'll pick Cody Brundage because he's 4 years younger, because he's more active. Like what? A year, 7 months, 5 fights. And the losses to Cedric Dumas, where he was getting out grappled. Oh, my God. How am I supposed to pick either one of these guys? How are you supposed to really confidently pick either one? You can't, no matter what side you're on. Why am I picking Cody Brundage? Because he's a little more athletic, a little younger, and his chin might not be as gone as Julian Marquez's. Why would you pick Marquez? Because he beat Sam Alvey fucking 4 years ago? Oh, well, he was standing up for 2 rounds with Marc-Andre Barrios 2 years ago. Oh, well, he got knocked out in 1 punch. Maybe he was recovering. There's no argument I can really make for Julian Marquez, but I can argue Cody Brundage can time takedowns. Cody Brundage can land a big overhand. It's just Cody Brundage thinks to go sideways and he can look for a way out of a fight. And Julian Marquez, who's not good at this point, could just swing wild, slobber-knocking bombs and he turtles up. I'll pick Cody Brundage. Let's go. Cody Brundage for the win. He's at a good gym. He trains at Factory X. Marquez, actually, I'm seeing him train at MMA Lab now. So let's see. New look Marquez. Oh, my God. I need another sip, bro. What are we doing? This co-main event. This co-main event is pushing me to a breaking point. Plus 155 Brundage. Go get your plus money. Opened at plus 185. Marquez minus 180. Am I just dog chasing? I feel like with this fight, just pick the fucking underdog at this point. Like, I don't know. I can't pick fucking Marquez. Honestly, though, if Brundage was a minus 180 favorite, I'd probably still have picked him. Over 1.5, minus 115, maybe. I'll say Brundage is more primed, lands some good overhands, maybe TKOs Marquez, maybe time some takedowns, but he could definitely gas out. What is this fight, man? Marquez hasn't looked good in a long time. Look at Marquez at one point had some hype on him, though. He fucked up Phil Hawes back in 2017, back when I graduated high school. He fucked up Phil Hawes. Look at me now. Yeah, dude. I'm going with Cody Brundage because he's more active. I don't know. He might improve. He's 30. Marquez turned into a bit more of a part-time fighter at nearly 35. I'll say Brundage has enough to beat a 34 and 9 months and 3 weeks year-old version of Julian Marquez, who's lost 3 fights in a row, all by knockout. We'll go Brundage for the win. Please let me move on. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you hit the likes. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We got Manel Kape versus Almabayev. Almabayev stepping in on short notice for Brandon Royval. This is a really cool fight. I am going to pick Manel Kape. I went back and rewatched Manel Kape versus Muhammad Mokaev, and I was like, okay, he definitely got that first round. There was competitive moments for him throughout the fight. Mokaev timed some key takedowns, but Kape still did fairly well in the stand-up department. And Mokaev is one of the most dangerous flyweights in the world, or maybe not most dangerous, but one of the best. He's not in the UFC anymore, but it's still a high-level fight. And then fight after that, he made easy work of Bruno Silva, beating the shit out of him and looking like he entered the Matrix in that fight. The fight before that against Dos Santos was a bad performance, but he turned up since then, and I think he redeemed himself even on a loss to Mokaev, making it close, and then with Bruno Silva wrecking him. Now he takes on Almabayev, who's an absolutely surging Kazakhstan prospect, but I don't know. He's not a fraud, but he's not that good. Almabayev is a solid wrestler, but like he's not this monstrous menace. I'm not heavily intimidated by Almabayev's wrestling in this fight against Manel Kape. I feel like Kape's got good hips. His takedown defense is normally pretty good. And even if he's taken down, I feel like he has the scrambling ability to get up to his feet with a fighter like Almabayev, who, yeah, he has good control, but he's not like hyper athletic. Last fight, Almabayev beat Nicolau 29-28. And he caught him with a good shot late, but he was also locked in a tight ghillie attempt, and it was a weird sequence there. I don't know, man. Almabayev, it's just, when I look at Almabayev's style, I say, okay, his stand-up is not bad. Times takedowns, controls, grinds out wins. He got a finish in his debut, but since then, he's been Mr. Decision. CJ Vergara, Jose Johnson, and Matthias Nicolau. Years ago, Nicolau had beaten Kape, but I'd assume if they rematched around the time that Almabayev fought Nicolau, that Kape would have probably knocked Nicolau out. I feel like Nicolau is, not as good as he once was, or maybe he got found out, whereas Kape has shown consistent improvements. You have to rate Kape pretty highly right now as a prospect. Good wrestling defense. He's an extreme couture guy. He's got solid takedown defense. On top of that, he's got fast hands. He's got quick speed with his feet. Picks his shots well from the outside, lands multi-shot combinations. Almabayev is going to have to wrestle fuck him for 5 rounds because I don't think he has a much chance, not too high of a chance, for a sub-threat. On the feet, I mean, Almabayev has a decent little left overhand he throws with the lead hand. He's got a decent single leg he can time and then loop some shots over the top. He's got good positional control, but like I said, not a great finisher. Kape doing well against Mokaev, losing a close fight. Mokaev seems a lot quicker than Almabayev. I'm going to say Manel Kape can win this thing, man. I don't think Almabayev is bursting into the top 4 with this fight right here. I feel like Manel Kape still has a chance to, get in that title shot mix. I like the Royval fight way more than this. That was supposed to be the #1 contender fight. Unfortunately, shit happens. Royval gets injured. Respect to Almabayev stepping in on short notice. Initially, he was supposed to fight Steve Erceg, and now Erceg's fighting Moreno. Good luck, Stevie boy. Holy shit. Almabayev's decent, but I feel like he's just decent. I don't know. I feel like Ramazan Temirov is what people expected Almabayev to be. So Temirov in the first fight of the night, I would have rather seen him fight Manel Kape. Second UFC fight, takes on Kape and knocks him out. Both guys fought in Rising. Could you imagine that? That's my perfect world, but that's not what's going to happen. Manel Kape should outstrike Almabayev, land pretty damaging shots, defend some takedowns. He will be pressed against the cage at some point, but I think that his abilities to hit switches in the clinch will be fine. He can work a whizzer if there's takedown attempts from Almabayev. He can get up to his feet if he's taken down. I think Almabayev could garner some control time, though, and maybe steal a round, but I don't think he's going to do much damage. And, you know, damage does trump all at this point. So even if Almabayev has some wrestling success, if Kape is clean with his striking, and if there's not some, like, you know, Kazakh bias, because, you know, you got a fighter from that region of the world that the takedowns mean more, then I think Kape should take it home by a judge's decision pretty clearly. 49-46, 50-45 maybe even, because his striking's a lot better than Almabayev's. Just the wrestling factor. Minus 240 for Manel Kape. I'll pick him to win. Almabayev plus 205. I mean, it's not juicy odds, but I'm going with the savvy veteran of the UFC. Over 3.5 is live at minus 155. Kape does have legit power, but he still won 3 fights by decision. 12 KOs. Fucked up Silva there. I want to call it KO. He does have the potential for it. Has Almabayev ever been chinned? Nah, he never got chinned, though. I don't know, man. I think Almabayev is in great shape, so he probably has good recovery. Say he gets outstruck, but he survives. And I'll say Manel Kape. You know what? I'll say decision or KO, because I do think there's a possibility of Almabayev failing on a lot of takedowns, getting frustrated in striking, and then starting to get a bit reckless and then getting countershot and KO'd. But the ultimate reason that I would have as like a secondary method behind decision will simply be because we're in the flyweight division, and though Kape is powerful and he fucked up Bruno Silva bad, Bruno Silva more of like a striking-based style. You know, he has some jiu-jitsu, but Almabayev's going to be looking to wrestle a lot. I don't know. I feel like he's going to try to limit the exchanging. And then I think he'll be forced to strike, but he might be tentative to like really let his offense go, which therefore could get him outstruck, but still keep him safe from getting knocked out, if you get what I'm saying. So I'm going to say Manel Kape does take it home, though. Doing more damage. He busts Almabayev up with some good shots, stops a lot of the wrestling attempts, and I think Manel Kape takes a unanimous decision or maybe a TKO. Maybe he lands a clean uppercut or a nasty straight shot, and Almabayev goes down, and then Kape rips him with some ground and pound. But seeing more of a TKO than a flatline KO, more of like the accumulation of damage breaks Almabayev down as opposed to just one shot. But listen, if Kape flatlines him, I'll be happy for him. Reach advantage and height advantage for Kape, 3-inch reach, which I think will come in handy in the striking arsenal. 1-inch height, which I also think will come in handy. And I think he'll be okay in the grappling positions with Almabayev. Almabayev has solid takedowns, but he's not super explosive or super physically strong. He's more proficient in the grappling. And he's going to control, you know, lower ranked guys like Nicolau, like Johnson, like Vergara, like Osborne. But none of these guys are the level of Manel Kape, especially at the time that they fought him. I get it. Oh, well, Nicolau beat him at one point. Yeah, shit happens in the past, okay? At the time of matchup, Manel Kape is seriously better than Matthias Nicolau. So Manel Kape to win is going to be the official prediction. I'll say that he takes out the short notice replacement, and maybe we get the rebooking of the Royval fight. Maybe he fights a Brandon Moreno, Steve Erceg winner. I don't know. Maybe he fights for the belt. There's a lot of endless possibilities for Manel Kape, but I do think he takes it home at UFC Vegas 103 in the main event, and the star boy keeps, the momentum going. He'll have a nice 2-fight win streak, and I think things are looking pretty good for him, and a bright 2025 is likely. I hope you guys enjoyed the full card breakdown. Those are the predictions. Make sure you all smash the like button. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're new, welcome to the show. I got much love for you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all for the support. Let me know what you thought of the picks in the comments down below. I'm definitely curious what you guys think about Sam Patterson and Danny Barlow. Anybody out there seeing what I'm seeing? Or do you think I'm a madman? Let me know in the comments. If you got nothing to say in the comments, we just enjoy the content as always. W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. I'll see you guys all week. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Peace out.